That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Jacob.
And tonight, folks, we are going to be going over something, a little more serious this evening after a few weeks of kind of like reveling in the Barbenheimer of it all and just general pop culture. We need to take a step back and acknowledge what has been going on in the realm of entertainment. Jacob, you are, of course, you're not part of either of these unions, but you are part of the performance art space. Like you've got ties to the community.
For sure.
And not necessarily the Hollywood community, but, you have ties to performing arts as a whole, is what I'm trying to say. So,
yes. Yeah.
I have enlisted you, my friend, to kind of come on and have this be our official strike podcast, because basically, folks, I want to do two things on the channel to support the strike. I want to do this podcast just to get our thoughts out there, and I also want to kind of have something at the start of every video, and we'll be kind of implementing that going forward soon. But anyways, Gulliver, can you get into a little bit more detail of exactly what we're going to be doing tonight?
For sure, yeah. So we talked a little bit about, over the past few weeks about ways to kind of show our support and just sort of break down and talk about the two strikes that are happening. The Writers Guild of America started first. The Screen Actors Guild has joined them now to empower both of them together. These are guilds that have been around quite a long time. These are guilds that have done a lot to ensure that folks who are making films, making TV, are being compensated and their time is not being abused, much like any other union that's around. But of course, the needs specifically for writers and actors is a little different than other industries. And one of the things that's really changed a lot over the past 10, 15 years is that the dominant method of TV is now streaming. The dominant method of film, is going to streaming or, digital order as soon as possible. It's not as common that you're dealing with stuff that only airs on TV. It's not as common that you're dealing with something that airs on TV at all. The really large and, heavy duty companies that are producing are streaming content. And largely the contracts that have been issued for those streaming projects have been, from what both the Writers Guild and SAG are saying, pretty unfairly weighted towards the producers of the film, the AMTMP and the streaming magnates themselves in the space of Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, et cetera, Disney Plus. So the kind of things that they're asking for are more reasonable shares of what is being put out. And so I kind of wanted to go through, the individual things that they're asking for. And I brought up some data from their sites that we can look at. But I think before we get to that, maybe I just want to mention that one of the things that tends to happen when these kinds of strikes happen is that we end up with, some kind of unusual content or some recycled stuff. And a lot of news stories get published about how the striking is delaying your favorite shows. It's delaying your favorite movies because things are on hold, to try and kind of put pressure on, the people who are asking for, reasonable wages and healthcare and pensions and things like that. That's not the greatest. I would encourage you, if you're looking at this, and we'll go over the data in a minute, but I would encourage you to look at those sorts of news stories with a grain of salt. We've had an enormous dearth of geek content the past 5 or 6 years here as the streaming services have gotten big, and as Marvel movies and DC movies and fantasy and sci-fi films have grown exponentially in what's being produced. And, not every one of those is a winner, but I would rather have a smaller number of good, high quality ones where I know that the people working on those projects are going home to a space they can afford. They're not worrying about their rent. They're not worrying about their health care. They're not worried about, whether or not the project that made the company they worked for $1 billion ever shows them a single cent after they're done for the day. Those things are important to me. So I hope that if you're looking at those sorts of streaming things, sorts of situations, that you take those sorts of articles that criticize the people striking with a grain of salt. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, as far as the production delays go, I mean, it is what it is. And
Yeah.
honestly, we're on a road where we cannot keep doing what we're doing. I mean, the summer of 2023 has been one of the most fascinating box office events that I've followed. And I don't mean to break everything down to box office, but it's like, if you really look at it, like Barbenheimer being the breakout success event of the summer, and then all these, like part 5, part 6, part 7s of franchises kind of underperforming, if not going down in flames at the box office. It really is, we're at a shifting point. And honestly, I feel like what you said about there being just a ton of content out there, I feel like for me personally, obviously, I'm with you as far as standing by, like the people making this, they at the very least need to get a living wage. I think, as you know, the situation with Spider-Verse in particular, that really broke me. That was really a breaking point for me, as far as, like here we have this animated film that's being held up as, rightfully held up as a piece of art, one of the most stunning pieces of animation that we've ever seen. And even that we can't fully celebrate on its own merits just because of the cost that it took to, to get that made, the toll that it took. And it's frankly going to be a little bit weird for me to go back to that movie. I mean, I'm sure I'll be able to, but it's one of those things where real life, in the toll that these things are taking on the working class. I mean, I'll give you a good example of how it's kind of bleeding in, just not even in Hollywood, but kind of in stuff tangentially Hollywood related, is I took a trip to Disneyland a couple months ago. And the thing that really ruined the trip for me is that I could just tell that the cast members were overworked. I could tell from their faces they were very much underpaid. They did not enjoy being there. They were basically struggling just to keep their heads above water as far as the stress went, and as far as, basically like the onslaught of entitled people going up to them at any given moment, because, the Disney parks have basically turned into one big social media clout session. And basically what I'm saying is, like, the cast members being on the ground floor of, of this stuff, it kind of reminds me of, because I think the big thing that people are sort of complaining about with the actors is like, oh, well, they get millions of dollars per movie. And I'm like, yeah, like the very, very few percent of celebrities that are actually known household names get that. But we're talking about the background actors, the extras, the bit players, the people that really, that really in a lot of ways kind of can add to a movie and pad it out and really make it what it is. And I guess with that in mind, for me, my whole thing is like, I am going to be going back and watching stuff that I have missed. Like there is more content out there than ever before. So I'm fully prepared to go into the next year or so, catching up on stuff. Like there's just off the top of my head, there's stuff like David Fincher's Mindhunter that I haven't seen. I don't know why that is the first thing that pops in my head, but I guess it's because I can ensure that is a quality piece of content. But there's just a whole bunch of stuff, just a whole laundry list of things that I haven't caught up on, both movies, shows. I've been meaning to watch The Wire. Approaching The Wire is almost kind of like approaching like an epic, like 2,000-page novel. It's very intimidating, but I'm sure it'll be satisfying on the other side. So for me, I welcome it. I welcome the shift because clearly a shift needs to happen. And honestly, I welcome the break so that I can actually get myself caught up on some of this content that we've gotten over the last
yes,
years.
I'm there with you too, man. I envy the time that I had when I could watch everything that was coming out so regularly. But the older I get, the more responsibilities I have. It's harder to keep up with everything. On the note of that kind of independent stuff, there is a list right now that SAG-AFTRA has put together, which is one of the things that I was going to share here. Let me see if I can get that on screen. 1 second. All right. All right. Can you see it there?
I got it.
Yeah. So these are the productions that are listed as having agreed to all of the things that SAG-AFTRA is asking for. And I did look through this list, and all of these, I have not heard of any of these companies that are producing these films here. They don't seem like any of the big films. I thought it was really interesting that these kind of unknown companies are the ones who are totally okay with the terms of the better wages, the better quality there. But the big companies, which have much more to work with, they're the ones that aren't getting these waivers because they haven't agreed to do this stuff. I guess Guy Ritchie is famous enough, so that's maybe there's some.
I would say the biggest production company I can think of, and I am very glad that they are kind of like the poster children for this movement and actually working with the unions, is A24.
Yeah. Yep. So, what I am hoping for, kind of in line with what you were saying, is that if, the strikes go on for a while, I hope we get a dearth of indie films, these low budget films with people who are really excited about working on this project and really excited about getting their, getting their work out there, but also that everybody working on the project is going to be fairly compensated. That feels very exciting to me. As much as I love, my Marvel and my Star Wars and, all these other things, it would be great to have, a little mini indie renaissance happening. That would be very cool.
I honestly, like I said, with A24 kind of leading the way, I really think that's kind of what we're looking at. And to tell you the truth, like, I don't mean to come off like an A24 fanboy, because I know some of those people can be a little bit cringe and sort of artsy-fartsy and up their own ass. But
I mean,
no offense, but
no.
to anyone who is. But I have found more and more that A24, it's like even the movies that they come out with that I just actively don't like for example, Beau is Afraid. Frankly, I kind of hated that movie. But at the very least, it had moments. It had it had scenes. It had individual ideas that were very captivating and that I am still thinking about. So it's like it's one of those things where even if not every one of their movies hits, every one of their movies you can tell were made with some kind of passion, some sort of artistic statement to make.
I'm there with you too. I am admittedly very curious about a film called Bootyology. From a purely academic perspective, of course, I need to know more about this film. But I'll table that window for now here. We can look at some of the other stuff here. So let me bring up some of the other stuff that I had looked through here just to kind of get a sense of what specifically was being asked for, and what are folks saying is not possible here. So this is the Writers Guild of America proposals, and then the AMTP offers in response. So Writers Guild on this side, AMTP on the other. So the first page isn't so interesting. It's fairly straightforward. They're basically asking for pay increases, and guaranteed minimums for working on streaming stuff, um, rather than oh, we're doing this, we'll give you this much, but we only want you for a couple of days, and then we'll work with whatever you've given us and do that kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, that is basically
Yeah.
one of the things that I've heard that's very much kind of like, I mean, the studios had been doing, frankly, a bunch of like snidely whiplash supervillain bullshit, is
Yeah.
how I can call it. But
Yeah.
I think this is one of the worst, where it's just like, yeah, come in for a fucking day of work and we'll pay you for the one day of work, and then use
Right.
your likeness however the fuck we want and not compensate you any further.
Right.
I'm just like, are you kidding me, man? Are you kidding me? Like that.
Yeah.
That really was to me kind of like the first sort of sign of like, okay, this is just like, this is going beyond just studio greed. I don't know. I don't even know what this is.
Yeah. The second page is the one that I think is more detailed when it comes to the Writers Guild stuff. So right now, residuals that come in from foreign locations. So if somebody is watching a movie that was produced here in another country, right now, those are very, very low residual, or those have been largely excluded and goes to the companies that produce them. They're asking for a much larger cut of that to be part of the residual base, which would help pay for this without a whole lot of change to the process that's already there. You can see that they're asking for 50%. They're getting these counter offers of 8%. So that's a pretty low response there. That's pretty rough. They're also, looking at programs designed for, VOD, weeklies and script fees and residuals, full rejection. Pretty rough, not good. They're asking that everybody who contributes gets, pension and health contributions as if they were writing. So if you're in a writer's room rather than credited as the writer of an episode, they want to make sure that they're getting pension contributions. Full rejection. Pretty rough again. This one's the important one to me, the artificial intelligence clause. They don't want stuff that is covered under American productions to be AI based. They don't want anything that comes from Writers Guild members to be used to train AI, and they don't want it used on their projects because they feel like it compromised their work. And I completely agree with that. I think that it is detrimental to the quality of work that's being produced. And even when used as a joke, I think it kind of mocks the process that is creating something original. And that's what they have asked for has been, again, fully rejected. They're not interested in doing that, which is really frustrating to see, because if AI starts doing the vast majority of that kind of stuff, that will kill a lot of writers' jobs. That will kill a lot of people who
I feel like AI is like
doing this.
it's a trickle down effect where it's going to kill just a lot of jobs in general.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like we're kind of staring in the face of
Right.
like a fucking real life sci-fi villain.
Yeah. The last thing I want to show from this document here is that what they're asking across the entire WGA would cost approximately $429 million per year. So I'm going to table that number, but hang on to that number because it'll be important in a little bit here. $429 million per year to cover.
I think I know where you're going with that number, and I'm excited to see just how
every single
just
number
how big the difference is.
Yeah. So we'll hang on to that number for a moment here. I am going to switch again to another tab here. Jump over. All right, so this is the SAG-AFTRA one. So they have quite a few proposals here as well. There's a few more things that are kind of interesting in this one. The ones that I was kind of interested in is that um, people who are not necessarily doing spoken roles, so like background actors, people who sing, people who dance, people who do like stunt work or who
Mhm.
do any kind of like athletic element on screen but don't have a speaking part, are apparently paid pretty differently, which is not great. And that's something that I, was frustrated to learn, but that was something that I learned when doing this research here.
Because those people are on set all day.
Yeah,
They are devoting as much of their time
right.
to the craft. And in
Yeah,
some cases, they have special skills that most other people aren't going to have.
right. And the process that is currently in place in a lot of ways right now is that in terms of credit, oftentimes the studio that the singers operate out of or are contracted through, or the dancers are contracted through, gets the accreditation rather than the individual. They're not always listed in the actual credits of the project, which is not great. That's not super good for anybody's reputation. If you're trying to build reputation there, that doesn't seem very good. Um, there's also a lot more things here for um, comfort. So wardrobe, where you're wearing super uncomfy stuff for a long time. They're wanting more payment specifically for actors that need to wear big stunt costumes or
Or like really, really heavy
big
prosthetics and
armor,
stuff like that.
prosthetics, that kind of stuff. Background
I actually
actors,
saw Karen Gillan uploaded a video that was just like a day in the life of playing Nebula. And I was like, damn, girl,
mm,
you're taking it like a champ because
yeah,
those prosthetics seem like a big pain in the ass.
yeah, that's true. Um, right now, background actors typically are offered a flat fee for the day. Um, that's not the best. They're asking for a lot of stuff to be better in that space as well. Background actors are often asked to come camera ready, meaning they're doing their own hair and makeup or they're paying somebody to do
That's
it.
just bullshit.
It's
That's
super
crazy
bullshit.
to me.
Yeah. Um, so they're asking for better compensation to manage that stuff. I mean, taking the time to do that and spending your own money on those products, if
Right,
you're
right.
if you're working as a background actor, can be really expensive. And actually, you're familiar with Ted Femright, who played Power Kid in
Yes,
Super
yes.
Academy. He has done a few day player jobs like that, those things, and he has chosen not to do more of it because it was really rough for that kind of reason. It was
Uh-huh.
pretty low pay and it was a lot of work. So I know that there's uh, some good stuff there that could be done to make that better. Um, I'll keep scrolling down here, but um, again, there's an element of artificial intelligence here that we want to address in this space. So they are wanting to make sure that actors who are having a digital replica of them made for a movie or a film are compensated for that fairly. And if their voice, their likeness, their performance is going to be changed using AI or animation, they want to make sure that that's protected and that they have a right to their appearance in whatever form that takes. Um, Unfortunately, studios have not agreed to any of that. And they would very much like to scan an actor one time for a one time fee and then use it forever with no
Yeah, to
residuals,
me, it's
no
like if that goes
rights to
through,
that.
that to me could like literally represent the death of Hollywood,
Yeah,
honestly.
that's a lot of jobs gone and a lot of good movies gone,
Yeah.
frankly. You're going to see a lot of really junky crap coming
Well,
through
I mean,
there.
again, it's like we're already the really frustrating thing about this strike, timing wise, is the fact that like this box office summer, like 2023, it could have been such a good learning experience for the studios
Right.
as far as like, okay, we don't want your fucking like Indiana Jones 5 or Mission Impossible 7. And that Mission Impossible 7's a good movie, but it did underperform, or
Sure.
Transformers 8 or, fucking Fast and the Furious 10. We are sick of you pushing these franchises to their limit and milking them for all they're worth and thinking that we're stupid and that we can't fucking comprehend an original idea. And then along comes Barbie and Oppenheimer, like literally making history. But like Barbie makes like 160 something, Oppenheimer makes almost 90, I think, something like that, maybe even higher. And it's like, what they should be taking away from that is to put more effort into these films, to have more original ideas.
Right.
It truly is the original idea thing that I think Hollywood should be taking that lesson. And yet these fucks are so like, they're so fixated on the bottom line and the whole like, how much money can we save using AI? And it's like, okay, like you like, Gulliver, we've been dealing with this shit for a while now with Disney, like us as Disney fans, the whole thing about like, well, why be creative when we can just regurgitate what we know that they want? And now I just feel like that whole mindset has just like, it's evolved past just like IP and not IP and into just like, like fuck the quality, fuck the art. And I mean, to bring things back around to a more positive direction here, like you said, I do think that it is going to be the A24s of the world that are going to kind of like bring a renaissance of sorts, hopefully, because at this point, Gulliver, like the Disney thing, I mean, more and more, it's like I still go back and forth on the whole, like, should I even have Disney as like a big part of my channel's branding at this point? Because I mean, they truly are the face of it. Like, I do want to talk about Bob Iger for a second. I don't want to derail you though, so I'll give it back to you because I know you've been making some points, but I want to make sure that I talk specifically about Iger.
The next stuff that I was going to bring up will lead right into that. So let's hang on to that. But I definitely want to hear your thoughts. And you're much more neck deep in the whole oeuvre of Disney than I am.
Yes.
I appreciate Disney, and there are many aspects of the Disney kind of extended family that I enjoy. But I think that you have really kind of embodied somebody who is a super fan.
And I've been in the trenches of it, Gulliver. I've been in the trenches of it for literally 20 plus years.
Yeah. I am very aware of that, and I appreciate your perspective on it because there's a lot of nuance that I don't always get to see when I'm looking for this kind of stuff, and what you have to say about it. Let me bring up a couple more interesting bits of information here. All right. So I want to show a couple pieces of information. So this one is from the Economic Policy Institute.
Okay.
This graph is how CEO compensation compares to workers at a company.
Oh, dear.
So in 1965, we have approximately 14.9 times the value of the average worker. So that's everyone else at the company averaged out to a wage in comparison to the CEO, 15 times as much. And here in 2023, that same chart is 236
oh
times
my God, dude,
as the average worker. And they have two things here. Granted, CEO compensation being salaries and or cash awards, whereas realized CEO compensation, which includes stock portfolios and other like ancillary bonuses and benefits, in which case we are looking at 398.8 to 1 of
that. Okay. I'm so glad you're bringing this up because this is it. Like, this is the lion's share of the problem right here.
Yes.
And honestly, frankly, this is not just a Hollywood thing. This is just like an industry wide, not even industry wide. This is just like the working class struggle right here, man.
Right.
And like I get existential dread thinking about this shit. I really do.
I'm with you. But to that end, I'm going to share one more thing here. That's another little add-on to that note that we're looking at. This here is pulled from stock data for Disney. Looking at year-over-year growth, annual revenue down here from 2020 to 2021 to 2022. So from 2021, their annual revenue was $65.3 billion. Jumped up a couple more billion in 2021. And 2022 jumped up to $82.7 billion, which is a huge jump from 2021. And this is where I wanted to go back to that number from before. The cost to get every Writers Guild of America person what they are asking for, they're asking for $429 million per year.
Oh man,
we're looking at exclusively Disney right now. No other companies that are contributing to this. If we're taking $429 million away from $82.7 billion, they still have $82.2 billion in annual revenue. So Disney could do everything that the Writers Guild of America is asking for by themselves and still have an over 20% increase of over $15 billion year over year. And that is the thing that is so frustrating here. When you have
that right there, dude,
saying that he can't do it, or that it's not realistic, it's not, a possibility even to think about. It's not something that they're willing to come to the table on. To me, that just shows pure greed. Nothing else. It shows a disregard for the people that are putting this stuff in. So I'll disconnect there. And, granted, there is a fair amount that would go into getting SAG what they're asking for as well. I'm not factoring that in here. But also I'm not factoring in other companies. I didn't want to pull up the revenue of, the 8 different largest streaming firms and try and get that all on screen, because I couldn't find a way to organize that easily. But I wanted to look specifically.
I think you made your point pretty clear. Like if that's just Disney, you can imagine how much other money is floating around between all these major companies.
Correct. And how little of a percentage it would be of their annual revenue to do what's being asked is pretty astonishing to me. And I didn't realize that it was that simple for them to do until I went and did this research. And you said you want to do this podcast.
I'm really glad you dug that up, man, because that is the kind of like, oh God, that is just scathing. It's just scathing. On that note, can we talk about Big Papa Iger?
Yes.
Because my God, okay, Gulliver, I need to get up on my soapbox for a minute here. All right. Do you remember last year when this man took over from Chapek and everyone was thinking like, oh my God, he's going to fucking save the company? Honestly, myself included.
Yep, I do. I do remember
that. This to me, like from the time that he took that position back until now, has truly been like an all-time fall from grace of anyone in any fucking company, any major corporate figure that I can think of. I am just honestly astounded. I am astounded by the fall from grace that this man has had. I mean, we're talking about a man, Gulliver, I don't know if you know this. This guy he had presidential ambitions at a certain point. I mean, that's part of the reason why he butted heads with DeSantis as much as he did.
Yeah.
And so the fact that He's coming back for 2 years, and then he's going to name a successor, apparently. Great. And then what does he do? Not much. I mean, basically, the only thing that he did since he's come back is essentially just greenlight a shit ton of more, basically like canon fodder, live action remakes and sequel. Like we got that Toy Story 5 and Zootopia 2 and Frozen 3 announcement. That was shortly after he came back.
Yeah.
As far as the parks go, I know that's not really tied to this, but just from a company point of view, the parks are just embarrassing. I mean, it's like the timelines that they have for construction projects are ridiculous. Like, I kid you not, Disneyland has been renovating their treehouse for like the past 2 years. And in that time, Universal Studios has practically built a whole theme park in Florida. I mean, like, Universal is just outpacing Disney in just a dramatic fashion. And frankly, Disney doesn't seem to care. They kind of have this hubris where it's like, oh, well, people are going to go to the Disney parks because they've always known the Disney parks. And now this is actually, I'm just bringing this park stuff up because I'm not sure if you heard Iger's quote about it, because the park's attendance is indeed down. And do you know what Iger has to say about that, Gulliver?
I don't.
He says that, oh, well, it's humid in Florida. It's the heat. And I'm like, motherfucker, it's always humid in Florida. It's fucking Florida.
Yeah.
So it's, and then let's just talk about his shitty attitude about this whole thing, because really, I think he's been doing a piss poor job of basically everything since he got back. Honestly, right before this stuff went down, there was the announcement that I think he got like a 2-year extension on his contract until 2026, I think. So that might be more than 2 years past his contract. And that to me was like the first really bad sign, because I'm like, okay, fuck, like, because I was cautiously optimistic about the whole idea of just finding someone better than Chapek. But I got to tell you now, it's kind of crazy because, like the main reason why people wanted Iger back and hated Chapek was frankly just because Iger had the better public persona. Like, Iger was just as greedy as Chapek in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways, the stuff that people blame Chapek on are things that Iger greenlit in the first place, like Disney Plus and putting too much investment into Disney Plus, for example.
Right.
And it blows my mind that, like, not even a year after taking over from Chapek and seeing just how much people got on Chapek for the bad public persona, that he's just doing this. Like, he's just outwardly just like, yeah, fuck the writers, fuck the actors. Like they are being ridiculous. Their demands are ridiculous. The fact that he's so publicly open about that, it's literally disgusting. And like I said, it has ruined his legacy. I mean, he's going to go down as the worst Disney CEO of all time. And that is crazy to think about when you consider that at a certain point, he was one of the best. I mean, at least as far as actually getting the company on a good financial footing, he was one of the more successful. But man, he acquired all of these things. He acquired Lucasfilm and Marvel, and he just drove all of them into the ground. So, all right.
One of the things that's so frustrating from my perspective as somebody who loves to create is that the idea of Disney, for so many people who have grown up in the past century, even here, is this idea of that endless creativity and wonder and magic that comes with this sort of creativity that we see in Disney projects, and it's so frustrating to see that creativity be quashed in favor of self-aggrandization. Bob Iger, he was retired essentially
Basically.
He has all the money that he will ever need to finance himself and probably, like several dozen other families if he wanted to.
Right.
He doesn't need to come back and take, these insane, multi-dozen million paychecks from this company to survive. He's doing it purely because he wants to. He wants more money.
I truly think there's also a legacy factor there. He wanted to be the person to save Disney again, and the ironic thing there is that, like, by doing what he did and coming back when he did, he has completely squandered any goodwill that he had.
And what I kind of mean by that is, like, there's this amazing opportunity for somebody in his position to commit to those same values of, like, creativity and magic and wonder, and give the artists, the people who made Disney such a, like, iconic thing over the course of its history, give those artists a place where they can foster that creativity and that wonder and magic while taking no penalty to himself. He has everything he needs to survive. The only penalty he takes is, not adding to that pile, right? And to be in that situation and not do it is so unfathomable to me. If I could fund the art of that many people with so little effort, I can't imagine saying no to that. And that's what's so frustrating about this for me. So, yeah, it's really hard to see that scenario. And, he's not the only one that's in this same position. Zaslav over at, Warner Discovery / HBO.
Arguably even more cartoonishly evil.
Yeah, I mean, the list goes on and on. If you can think of a big production company or streaming magnate, they're playing the same game too, just with, slightly smaller marbles. And that's, it's a problem. It's a problem industry wide. So I hope that somebody takes
that. I want to bring up though really quick. Sorry, is the fact that honestly, like, you brought up the 2022 numbers, and those were good, probably because of the fact that 2022 was, kind of like the COVID recovery year for them.
Yeah.
This year has not been good. And honestly, they are not in a great spot financially right now. Like, and I'm not saying this is a justification to not pay their actors or not, not work out the deals. I'm just saying, like Iger is in a very precarious situation where Star Wars, I mean, the man has managed to make Star Wars a financially non-viable IP. I mean, like, just wrap your fucking head around that for a second. I mean, it's, it's even like the one thing that I will give him credit for in all of this is the fact that he publicly admitted that he went too hard on the MCU stuff and that there was definitely an oversaturation of MCU stuff. I'm like, good, stop with the oversaturation shit for sure. But like you said about, the creativity and the projects that they're actually making, like, as you know, I loved Encanto from a couple years ago, but that is definitely the last thing that the studio has put out from any of their branches that I loved. And outside of Encanto, it's all just been more or less fine. Like, even something like the Haunted Mansion movie, which should have been, like, tailor-made specifically for someone like me who's a diehard Parks fan. It's like it had the cool Easter eggs and references to the ride, and it looks like the ride, but as far as the actual quality of the movie goes, it's fine, And it's like, and not to mention just the live action remakes, like I said, the endless sequels. I don't know. It's like Disney is very much becoming a joke.
Yeah, I hope things turn around. I don't know if you've seen any, like, interviews or read any articles about her, but I hope somebody like Abigail Disney gets in that slot, that CEO slot.
I have definitely been following Abigail Disney. It very much reminds me of the Roy Disney versus Michael Eisner situation from back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see somebody like her take control and really, try and foster that level of creativity again and foster that growth, that exponential creative growth. Every studio has its problems, but like it's just so hard, and I know you feel that too, watching what's been going on. But we should probably wrap up
you
here.
made the smart call to pretty much boycott Secret Invasion because of the AI stuff.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, Gulliver, that intro is not the only thing about Secret Invasion that feels AI manufactured. I'm not saying that it was written by AI, but I'm saying the writing on that show is lazy enough that it could have been, man.
Well, I'm sure I'll see it eventually, but I'll probably bootleg it or,
You're not missing much. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. It's like they're just every little thing in Disney's department right now. I'm trying to. It's one of those things where even in the Disney parks, and like I said, I know the Disney parks are kind of more tangentially related to this, but even in the Disney parks, it literally feels like every day there is an announcement that Disney makes that I'm just like, are you serious? Like, why are they doing this? Like,
yeah.
For example, just today they announced that they were going to, because we've known that the Hatbox Ghost was going to come to Florida's Haunted Mansion for a while, and it makes sense. But they just announced that it's going to be in the Endless Hallway, which, I'm sorry, I'm going to get into some deep cut lore with Haunted Mansion here. The Endless Hallway is before the Seance Room, and the Seance Room in canon is the kind of like transitioning point to seeing the real ghosts in the ride. So you see what I'm saying? Like they're just kind of like haphazardly like, yeah, the Hatbox Ghost is going to be not past the Seance Room. It's like they don't even care. They don't even care about the mythology that they created for the ride. I also want to share with you, just as an example of like the head scratching, like what the hell is this shit? Gulliver, we're getting Smellephants.
Okay.
There's a new interactive experience coming to the Magic Kingdom. Smellephants on Parade will be a family-friendly search and sniff adventure in Storybooks Circus presented by Scentsy, the official home fragrance of Walt Disney World.
Okie dokie.
So it's literally, Gulliver, I swear to God, every day it feels like we are getting something like that. Some sort of like head scratching, like what the hell are they even doing at these parks at this point?
Yeah.
Not to mention the maintenance at the parks has just been awful. They can't keep things running. Universal, like I said, Universal is just beating them at their own game. Like once Epic Universe opens in a couple years in Florida, it's going to be over. I mean, like nobody's going to want to go to Disney World anymore. Okay, I'm off my Disney soapbox. We've got just a few minutes to wrap things up. Is there anything else you want to go over?
I think we've mostly covered everything. I think, again, it's so hard to look at this stuff, but I really do want to kind of stress that hopeful aspect. Like it's hard to look at this and feel hopeful, but I am hopeful.
I think the silver lining in the situation is the A24s of the world that are, that are working with the studios.
Hopefully some of the bigger studios start realizing that when they're compassionate and they're funding and they're doing these things that they need to do to take care of their people, that is when new, iconic, exciting, original work is going to come out, and it's going to make them a bunch of money. But they're not looking at it that way. So I hope that happens. I want to be hopeful in that aspect.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, folks. We only got one comment tonight. LAB saying, yeah, such a shame it got humid in Florida. It's first time in history. Sarcasm.
Yep.
Like I said, I just really wanted to get something up on the channel that was like a direct sort of statement about our thoughts on the strike, and that, we very much support it. As I said, like as a content creator myself, I am kind of in this weird position where I am kind of feeling the pressure of like, should I even be reviewing the current stuff that is coming out? I did not feel great reviewing Secret Invasion. I'll say that much, especially considering the AI intro of it all. Honestly, like, it's to the point where I am so disinterested in Blue Beetle that, like, I kind of don't even want Dragon to review Blue Beetle without me. I'm just like reviewing that movie, it's getting so little hype. I don't even think that reviewing it is going to do anything for our numbers.
Yeah.
So, we need a change. We need more original ideas. We need more of a shift in the, in the balance of economics in this industry. And I'm hoping that the long-term effects of this strike are going to bring about that change.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Gulliver. Honestly, you were completely like, oh my God, like you brought about some really killer stuff here. So really appreciate it.
I wanted to do my research. I didn't want to come unprepared, so I wanted to back up.
Well, literally what I wanted to do was just come on and vent about Iger. Like that was it. So
sure.
All right. Okay, folks. See y'all later. Have a good night.